Hi everyone, welcome to our Talking Tuesdays. My name is Tanvi Sharma, and our topic for today's Talking Tuesday is the crying baby. Hi Anshika. So, this topic is in continuation of our Parent Infant Pathway series called Know Your Baby. If you haven't seen our other, Talking Tuesdays, that you can access them through our IGTV or our YouTube channel. Hi. So, I'm just looking for my partner for Talking Tuesday, our very own Divya Deswal. I know all of you would know her already. And yeah, thank you for showing us all the love that you do through your direct messages and leaving your comments. So thank you so much. Hi, Jirina. Okay. Hi, Divya.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well.
Okay, so I'm gonna adjust my camera
I have to take
because I can see a lot of room over your head and not mine. I think let me also sit back.
Well, it's the topic today. You have to sit back and be grounded to work with the crying baby.
Yes.
So, are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay, welcome everybody. Let's start with acknowledging that a crying baby tugs at our heartstrings, and that if the baby is ours and is crying,
Divya, I'm interrupting you, sorry. Your voice is echoing a little,
really?
and I can
Is it?
hear myself back.
Oh, but I could hear you just fine and myself. Let's check if everybody can do that. Okay,
Yeah. It's better
that
now.
happens. It's better now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we said
Can
that
everyone hear Divya like well, clear? We don't want to be doing this again.
we are going to be doing this again,
Well, we are, yes.
but
Okay.
not today. Okay. So we just we want to start with an acknowledgement that a crybaby, well, crying baby is quite distressing for parents, and it tugs at the heartstrings of everybody. But if the baby is crying a lot, then it is very safe to say that the parents are also very dysregulated or worried or distressed. And I think a large part of this paradigm arises out of this inability to bear or solve the problem of a crying baby. So, having said that, my heart goes out. So, we're not only looking at the pathway as a, an interactive pathway, but also as a solution pathway. What might help different people, and that would be where we want to go today. So, a crying baby actually represents another pathway of communication. So, crying is purely communication. The baby is saying that I need help. And if we actually look at babies, and if you look at something that people who do lactation support and all talk a lot about, which is hunger cues. When the baby is first hungry, they actually don't cry. They move their head side to side. They show behavior for sucking. They look at for rooting. They look for the source of food. And then when that is not met, they start to fuss. you know, they're starting to make a certain noise that will definitely get somebody's attention. Simply because their original communication has been lost. So that it's been lost in delivering. So they're now going to up the ante a little bit and say, now could you, I mean, just pay attention here. And only late cue of hunger is crying. What does that tell us? I mean, we accept that for breastfeeding. And of course, we say, don't wait till they're crying to breastfeed. Then you see the early signs of breastfeeding. What does that tell us? That the baby is using crying, which is the only pathway of communication they have, to get the attention of the care provider so that they can be attended to. And if that is true for breastfeeding, then we can safely say that crying is communication. So having this idea that the baby should not cry is a strange one because we say that crying is communication. As a side note, moms and dads and families who pay attention to the cues of baby in the early period within a week or two can differentiate the different cries. This is a sleep cry, this is a cry for susu potty, this is a cry for food. So they're able to understand the baby's language, which is this vocalization of their needs. And it's interesting that nature has made it crying so potent that it immediately catches the parents' attention. Well, not just the parent, the baby's crying, say in a crowded place, everybody's attention. This is nature's imperative that this baby should be taken care of by parent or whoever, it doesn't matter. Meet the baby's needs. Because they're so tiny and their needs are dramatic in terms of volumes of their body or amount that they have as help versus the distress. For example, if the baby is cold and starts to lose heat, how much time do you think it would take for the baby to go into hypothermia? Very little. Or how do you think this baby's growth and body's metabolic activity will help if he's spending all his energy trying to thermoregulate? So their needs are quite vital and quite instantaneous, and therefore cry is that potent communication that says pay attention now. And so we have to use that as a benchmark, which means our idea is now no longer, how do I make the baby stop crying, but start to inquire, oh, what is this baby trying to say? What does this baby need? How can I support? So there are three different aspects to it. What is the baby saying? And here's a little bit of a list. So you can say, like everything in life, start with the most obvious and go on to the subtle. It's a physical need, whether they are hungry, maybe they're cold, maybe they've eliminated, maybe they are sleepy and need some help. So basically, it's saying, I need to do this body function or I need help with, and whatever that blank is, with food, with cold, with cleaning, with, whatever that is. And it can be as simplistic as that. The baby. So we're not asking parents to keep looking at the baby all the time to catch the first cues. But in proximity, think of yourself saying you're a little bit unwell and you're lying in bed. And then you're thirsty and the water is finished in the bottle near you. So what are you going to do? You're going to say, hey, listen, can I get some water? So that first or the first bit to talk or the gentler vocalization is asking for help, and it could be as simple as like, can I do these physical things? Babies would also cry if they actually have a problem and need medical help. So one of the simplest way to look at it is to see what is their temperature. And we know that you can find baby temperature by either looking at the skin temperature on the head or on the body or armpit temperature. So these are a few things you can see. And if we get confident in saying that if their temperature is fine, that is one of the indicators that their body systems are working well. If they are too warm, they may need to cool down a little bit, or they may need help. So, you're beginning to understand or unravel the mystery, so to speak. And the other thing that we check with babies is their stomach. Is it too tight or is it protruding? So distension and hardness. Because a soft stomach says that their gut is working well. So we are eliminating medical things. A third thing that might come up, and it comes up usually when people call me, and say, my baby wants to breastfeed, she's coming to the breast, and then when she sucks, she jumps away. So ear infection. So these are medical needs. If you're seeing a discoloration on the skin, they're too pale, too red, is there a part of their body? So, with all these clothes that these babies wear, sometimes a thread might be really irritating their skin. And they're crying for that, but we just can't figure it out. So see if the clothes are all, how do they touch from inside? What are the seams like? What are the buttons like? These are very simple things to eliminate. Unfortunately, every time the baby cries, we think it's food. But there could be a variety of things. And these are also very simplistic things. You can just look at that and you know this baby needs help. The complexity of it comes when your baby cries a lot. And we say, why is this baby crying? And there are two
So,
different,
Divya, when you say normal, I mean a lot, what is
a
a lot?
lot. So it's that's where I'm getting to. So when I first started doing studying this, I realized that babies, that the Association of American Association of Pediatrics says that your baby can cry between 2 to 6 hours, and of course they have a
Whoa.
range. Yeah, that's a lot, and they have a range that says they start to cry more in a particular month, and then it peaks over weeks, and then it comes down. And then we also know that if you superimpose on it the graph of colic, that it starts at 6 weeks and goes up to. But there's no explanation. It's an interesting phenomena for a very scientific, evidence-based platform. There is no explanation of why babies cry or not. But what they've actually done is that they've looked at other primates and other animals, and they say that yes, there is more activation for other animals as well in this developmental period.
Correct.
So there's just guesswork on that. But what is interesting is when I first read the work of William Emerson, that was the beginning of my journey actually in this work. And I didn't actually pay attention to this particular line that he wrote. But when I went back to doing pre and perinatal psychology and I was studying that same document again, and he was talking about obstetric intervention, it's interesting that they say that it's normal for babies to cry for 20 minutes a day and usually to define a need. And so if you compare 20 minutes to 2 to 6 hours, there's a very big difference.
True.
Now, if a baby cries for 20 minutes and each time it's only for a need, then the parent is communicating or is in training with this baby or learning about the baby, and then, they're getting in together. But if they're crying for 6 hours, can you imagine what that would be doing to the parent? And so that really piqued my interest, and I looked. So babies are also metabolizing drugs. So if you look at the current view of how we look at trauma, he goes up to say, and he's quoting a research that he's done over different parameters of babies. 95% of babies feel birth trauma. And let me just clarify, because trauma is such a big buzzword. It means that their nervous systems are overwhelmed. And now it will begin to make sense. Because you take a baby to a party, they cry. First birthdays, they cry. Their nervous systems are overwhelmed, and their reset button is throwing themselves to sleep or however that will be. So it's kind of a reset system. So they're overwhelmed. But what is interesting is because they carry the memory of that in their bodies, they are reliving those memories. Hopeful news is that he says that about 50% of them will resolve on their own because it's mild to moderate overwhelm. Of course, it's an intense process and they will resolve themselves. And it's so phenomenal because, trauma is talking about something, pediatricians are talking about something. Who's putting it together? When you put the dots together, you see that most babies will feel the intensity of overwhelm of the birth. But what helps them regulate back? Skin to skin contact. So a majority of them will resolve if they come into contact with the mother right in the beginning. However, when they are separated, they will be adding another layer of separation anxiety trauma to it. And all this research about 2 hours to 6 hours of crime is coming actually from cultures that are doing interventions and separating babies. I am sure we will find different results if we collate information from different sources. It will be very interesting to know. Because because if you look at in terms of biology, in terms of trauma work, they all fit in together here. So we can say that, if your baby is crying a lot, we must offer them the rest technique. And the rest technique, and I'm going to read it because in craniosacral work, when I first heard the word rest, I mean, if you use it in common language, if you're too tired, if you're too overwhelmed, rest. What does that mean? What does that mean to each person? Some people rest actively, which means they might do a slow exercise, they might do meditation, they might actually go to sleep, they might watch TV. Basically, how do they slow down the engagement? But in cranial work, when my mentor first used the word rest, he called it REST, reduced external stimulus time. And very interesting because if the external stimuli is reduced, then your nervous system is no longer engaged and it will process what is happening inside. The technique that was offered for babies, for crying, rest, it says regulation is the first. R is for regulation. I wrote it down, so I'm going to read it from there. So you do regulation, you do entrainment, you do structure, and you do touch. And the idea is that their nervous system is just coming into the world and it's not had that kind of exposure and it's building. So regulation means they're constantly supported and not left to deal with themselves and overwhelmed. They're always supported at the boundaries of what they can manage by a regulating adult. And I really emphasize the word regulating adult because any adult can be there. But if the adult is not regulated, then that offers the baby that, yeah, there is a stress around me because this adult person is also stressed out. So we want to cut out the stresses from their life, not add in more. So a well-regulated adult. And if you look at tradition, we say postpartum period for the mother is for rest, for being looked after, to reduce her stress as well as much as possible. I don't know what it may translate for every individual, but here's the principles behind it. And then entrainment, which means that there is an engagement between the mother and the baby with all the senses, not always actively. So entrainment is also back and forth, meeting, and we've talked about the social baby. We've talked about all these different entrainment methods that we can use or pathways that are already there. Following the baby's lead, offering structure. Now, structure is not the same as schedule. Schedule is made by you. Structure is built upon the rhythm of the baby. So you are offering, you'll find the babies are fairly regular in their sleep and wake cycles. They're coming into a rhythm, biorhythm. And the structure means that you're organizing yourself to the baby, not scheduling the baby to you. And that's the structure around the baby. And touch. Touch is such an important pathway for babies because their other senses, even though they are fully developed and they are going and they're reaching out, touch is the one that started right in the beginning. Touch is the one that has a very complex expression. And so we've talked about touch to all ends. And then, of course, we've had a whole chat with Yasmin about touch. So touch, contact with the skin, contact with the hands, so much different ways of touch. I mean, also breastfeeding is such a touch intensive activity for the baby. So these are the rest protocol or the rest technique for babies who seem to cry too much. And this is one of the pathways of intervention, but also for parents because and there's a rest for parents as well, and that starts with reassurance. I can't say this enough because we want a regulating adult on the other side of this entrainment. So reassurance, empathy. Being a new parent and mother is quite overwhelming. Support. And support doesn't mean that, oh, postpartum period, I will do this, and you have to do this. That's not support. Support means to take a pause and say, I can recognize this is getting too much. What will help you? what may help you may not fit in your traditional checklist of support, but that's what works for her. So we want to place individuals before generalized prescription. And I think this idea, when I feel that I am important, helps me feel safe anyway. And the last is time out. And that is why we need a village to bring up a child, especially a crying baby. Because when we hear the cry of the baby, it also does something to our nervous system. Most of us believe that our bad behaviors are just bad attitude or bad personality or bad temperament. But our so-called bad behaviors are not in our control because that's how the nervous system is organized. So timeout will allow the mother to bring herself into the range of resilience. Know that she has support. That's another way of showing support. And so these are the two rest opportunities for babies who seem to have more crying needs, which we are not able to define by the simple parameters of, say, is it physical, is it medical, and it may be psychological. It may be something that they're carrying, and all they need is an opportunity to release it. And of course, not to say that mothers themselves may have gone through an intense experience which they may view. So it could be intense and it could be either positive or negative. Let's not mix the two. Birth is an intense experience, but each person has a very individual perception of that intensity. Some people say, oh, wow, it was intense, but it was something. And they can smile. And some people say, my God, it was so intense, I couldn't bear it. And then that's wrong. So we let each person decide what that was and then support them. And so a large part of the unexplained crime would then come from these intense experiences. And of course, Dr. Harvey Karp, who's the author of the book Happiest Baby on the Block, writes about, it's a very simple explanation he gives. He says, think where they're coming from, and they're neurologically nascent, immature. And so because they needed to come out, and we've talked about that many times, that the fact that her brain is becoming bigger, hip is becoming smaller, so I won't get into that. But think that they need to come out early, 3 months too early. So these 5 S's for soothing the baby, recreate the womb in some way. And there's swaddle, and there's side lying or stomach position. Then there is shushing, not like shh, but that's the kind of sound they may be hearing inside. So swaddle is the close contact. The side lying is their own position, curled up. So, if you're putting them on their stomach on your arm, they're literally moving that way, head moving forward or tilting forward. The shushing, the movement. The womb is a very movement-rich environment. The mother is moving most times. So the movement, not the shaking, but the swinging, and also the sucking, which he says is the cherry on the top, because sucking mechanisms are also soothing mechanisms. So if they are overwhelmed, then they can have to. We can then start to say, how much can we support their self-soothing so they're snuggled in and their hands are close by, and we talked about it in the oral pathway, that they can suck and self-soothe. So we're offering them gentle nudges towards becoming self-sufficient, self-soothing, or self-regulating, but that's later. But the experiences of that in this period will support that. So whether it's a physical need and they're crying for it, whether they're telling you that I need help, so I need medical help, whether they're showing you that I've been through an intense experience and please support me, and then paying attention to that. And by these simple things that you can do, which are the 5 S's, and there's the flex hold, and there's so many different things. And then you may have something very unique of your own. We can communicate, listen to their communication, respond to it appropriately, and use that pathway of the baby. So that's for me.
Great. So we have one question, and she's saying that why do babies cry at night more than during the day?
Well, that's not my experience, but afternoon dusk or later they have what doctors call colic, and nobody can explain it. There's no medical explanation for colic. So I'd like to think that because of daylight, because of our interaction, because of our, because we are day people and we sleep at night, the baby may be having a bit of an overstimulation by the evening, and that's the overwhelm on the nervous system. So, what are the decompressing or the down regulating activities you can do? And if you know that time period, there are things you could do before that so that they are well regulated. Or in really early infancy, in the newborn period, they don't have day and night cycles like us. So we have a day, which is a really long period of time for them. And then we have a night, and they start to cry, it becomes very long for us. And it becomes a bit
Right.
difficult. But how do we then take care of how we support their sleep, their downtime and uptime? Are we following the cues of the baby, which is are they ready to engage or disengage? So we are following those and we are reducing the stimulus around them. And that might help towards the end, uh, when they are, end of the day. Also think that by the end of the day, we are getting exhausted. So what is our regulation system? So they are challenged, they need help, and we are challenged and unable to offer help. And that's the point where the the crime takes off. That's my explanation for it. But if you look at the principles of what we taught, whether it's the nervous system, whether it's the regulation, whether it's the need, you'll be able to come to the same conclusion. Unfortunately, it's not taught in pediatrics, it's taught informally. But if you bring the dots together, it makes sense.
Right. How about carrying the baby, Divya,
Carrying the baby
in
is
a
a
way?
wonderful way of creating the uterus in utero experience on the outside. It has touch, it has entrainment because the baby's heart rate and mother's heart rate are in training. That's one pathway of entraining as well. It has, all the things that we talked about for regulation. That when the mother is regulated and going on, and she's not feeling overwhelmed with her life. That's regulation right there. And it gives you structure because the baby's cues are very visible to you right there. So you are actually structuring everything around those cues. So you're doing
Right.
a two-pronged thing. It's not one prong. A, you're eliminating the stress and you're enhancing the baby's interaction. Whereas in the other paradigm, the stress itself takes the capability of any engagement, forget enhancement. So we're not talking about, oh, we are doing this better. We are talking about something like this. This is, say there's a zero level from where we start. A stress will make it sub-zero. But a regulation will actually take it up and then enhance it.
Okay. We have another question, and she's saying that what to do when in-laws prevent from doing attachment parenting, especially when they say
Very
that,
hard.
don't pick the baby up too often, and
A couple of things here. Since my path is never confronting, so I've been through the same thing, and they do the same thing. First thing, remember that they're not saying it from knowledge; they're saying it from what they've been told. A lot of our beliefs come to us even before we can uh, be logical. So a lot of that has been transferred to them rather than they've asked. And they've also lived in a culture that had not encouraged them to ask. When the baby is crying, one of the you cannot have an approach that says you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong, because that will only lead to conflict. You can use an emotional approach. You can say, oh, when the baby's crying, I can't bear it. And you can have a conversation with your partner. You can actually have a conversation with your in-laws if that's the approach that is possible for you. if not, then if the partner, I'm sure people of your particular age group are open to listening to why what you're saying is important, why you but the most important thing is that if you're driven instinctively to pick up your child, take that as nature's design to make sure your child is well looked after. Because if you could ignore your child's cry, you would have. But you're not designed that way. You're not primed that way. So if they're saying don't pick up the child because the child is crying, that may be for the reasons that I spoke about, that the baby is having a stress response, but they're not able to see an obvious reason for it. And so by maybe picking up the baby and regulating yourself and not worrying about what they're saying, but showing them how well the baby adapts and grows and keeps quiet, might change their mind. And if not, then do what a parent does. Be the parent of the baby and not the baby of the parents. Part of being a parent is also that it's your responsibility. So you'll make choices that not everybody will approve of. But I'd say your piece. Say it in a state of mind where you're grounded, not angry, because the crying baby evokes that in you. And I think that leads to everybody becoming dependent. So this worked for me. I used to say, oh, I can't bear to hear my child cry. And
Yeah.
then what would somebody say? Oh, we can bear to hear the child cry. So they'll say, no, हमें भी बर्दाश्त नहीं होता है. We also can't bear it. Then so then pick him up. Oh, he's so small. And just pick. Don't get too much engaged with their approval on it. You're the parent. Embody that. So my
Uh, sh-
approach would
sh-
be that.
she's also asking also to increase time between feedings. I'm not sure what she's asking.
I don't know how that would be, but that would happen automatically as the baby grows up.
Grows up, yeah.
So the question you should ask, I mean, as I understand the thing, so you'll get good gaps. Ask questions, why does my child need treatment? And in that answer, when you pursue that question, you will find the answer. Do you really want to increase that time gap? Because if you understand what your need of your baby is, I think you'll, all the other notions get dropped. We here at My Child First start with the premise that parents are capable, they're competent, and they want to look after their children. I think that is why you're here. But the narrative of the world is the opposite. It is about how we can quickly deal with human beings from other human beings. So we kind of made it this story which we're not questioning. I'm asking you to question the story. And in the answer to that question, you will find that you no longer need to do what you think you want. You might change your mind. You
Also,
still don't.
probably the baby is feeding too often, so maybe the baby is overstimulated or just trying to
So
regulate.
So then look at the feed. No?
Yeah,
Is he coming onto the breast? Is he sucking vigorously? Is it a nutritive suck? Is the baby transferring milk? Does he really need that much of milk? What are the rest periods between the feeds? How long are the
yeah,
so we are not approaching each pathway singularly. This is what we said in the beginning, that this multifaceted pathways will tell you and they'll overlap and show you something about the baby. But the idea is that discovery, that exploration, that's the fun of it. So if you give us more information, we might open more pathways for you and for ways to look for you. But for me, if you question, what is it this baby is trying to show me or tell me or explain to me or ask of me? Versus, why is this baby not doing what I want of it? Your answers will arise from that. And those answers will kind of meet your need, meet the baby's need, and make the baby and you a happier person.
right. So, so I know you've asked the question anonymously, so I won't name you, but if you want to write to us separately, please do write to us on info@sulitmedia.com. That's our email ID, or our numbers are there. You can give us a call and drop us a message on WhatsApp. You can do that as well. So I think that was it from us. If we don't have any more questions, let me just have a look. There's one more question. Do you think that because they don't hear any sounds at night, so they feel lonely and cry for checking if somebody's around?
Could be possible, but it's not like you don't hear. So if they are close to you, they hear the sound of your breath, and that's even sound. There could be daddy snoring nearby as well, hopefully, to offer some white noise to the baby. But it could be. And it's not like every baby is the same. So for what may be too much noise for somebody may be okay for somebody else. And that's personality, that's temperament, that's developmental pace. So one size will not fit all. See what your baby needs. But generally, if you're close by, the beat of your heart, the breath, it's good enough for them to touch. That could be good enough for them to settle back. So even if they're checking that, oh, is somebody there? Think what is your way of reminding them that you're there. So it could be a sound from you, it could be your touch, and it's instinctive when your baby stirs and does, you put your hand on her or her. And so nature, it's not really rocket science, and I keep saying this again and again. We just need to orient to it again. These are behaviors that arise out of you automatically. Uh, so, but it's really valid what you asked. That it could be for
Yeah.
absolutely.
So that's about it. We have one question which is completely off the topic by Aisha, and she's saying, "My baby does not eat properly. What should I do?"
Okay, she's used the word eat, so my question is, how old is the baby?
Yeah, yeah. So Aisha, you can write to us separately, and
And
we'll
the
be more
other
than happy
question I'd
to.
like you to explore is, how do you define properly?
Yeah. Who decides what's proper?
But she can
So
write to us.
yeah, please do write to us. Our email ID is info@Media, and Aisha, you have our number, so please do write to us. 3 years old, she's saying.
Yeah, so we have to explore it in a different
Yeah, so we can have a offline chat about it. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And this was our Talking Tuesday on the crying baby. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday with another topic. We are still in continuation of Know Your Baby, and we will be covering prematures. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.